And we're live. We did it.
Oh,
Hi.
Hello.
We did it. Hi.
It's been an interesting day, but we made it here to talk trees. And I'm
Here
happy
we
to
are. I'm
have
very
you.
happy to be here. Kim, what's on the screen?
Well, on the screen is a rather hard to get view of Cornelius Johnson's Olympic oak in the backyard of the family home on Hobart, which is behind quite a tall fence at the moment. Yes.
Right. And so let's just there we go. There. Boop. Let's get a
By the way,
nice.
folks, you have a chat in the sidebar there if you
we're
want
gonna,
it.
We're gonna get to all of that.
Well, I always like to see people chat a little.
I did that. Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. All right, let me just make sure.
Hi, we're Esotouric. I'm Kim. This is Richard.
Yeah.
And we together are running around Los Angeles, desperately trying to hold it together long enough for you to enjoy it. And here's one of our campaigns. We want to share with you that this really important tree is facing a really interesting landmark hearing and has some crises that are a little beyond the standard Los Angeles historical cultural monument status, where when something goes through landmarking, it's more or less saved. This is a living thing. It's a little more complicated. And so we just want to bring you up to date and get you involved, because this hearing on Thursday is a place where a lot of you can make a difference. You can either send a written public comment tomorrow, first thing, or you can call in on Thursday and be heard by the Cultural Heritage Commissioners and hopefully encourage them to do a little bit of advocacy themselves, which is something we'd love to see.
Okay, let's just take a breath. Okay,
I'm breathing.
We have a lot to do. First of all, Dr. Don Hodel is watching. So Don,
Hi, Don.
if you want to shoot us a message in chat, so we know you're listening. I know you're logged in. All right. There's a handout. So those of you watching this as a recording, that should get kicked to your email as soon as you register. Those of you on now, you should have gotten an email. If you haven't, go look in the tab next to chat and Q&A and download the handout.
The third one.
Yeah. Handouts are very, very important. All right, let's
because there's lots of recommended reading that we don't expect you to do while we're all talking to each other.
We have to save the trees to save ourselves. This is Dr. Don Hodel's maxim, and he recites this all over Los Angeles County with us, and we'll keep coming back to this maxim. That's really a mantra. I said maxim in my notes, but we're talking about the Cornelius Johnson oak. We're talking about a part of this historic cultural monument application going before the Cultural Heritage Commission this Thursday. The Cornelius Johnson oak is in Harvard Heights, which sits in
Koreatown loosely.
It's the West Adams. What are you talking about? It's West Adams.
Well, if you're a developer, you call it Koreatown because then you can bump your prices up. We'll get to that. This is where it is.
It's at 12th and Hobart. It's basically at Pico and Normandy.
It's basically, if you've ever taken our Weird West Adams tour, you've been around here. If you've ever eaten at Papa Cristo's, who catered our wedding, you've been very close. If you've ever visited Angeles Rosedale Cemetery, you've been basically in the shadow of this beautiful tree.
Right, 12th and Hobart. Here's a photo from 12th Street, back side of the house, the best shot of the oak. Let's see where these slides get us.
Wait, stop.
No.
Stop. Go back.
I'm going back.
Very important. Oh, hi, Don, in the chat. Dr. Hodel in the house. Very important. Look behind the tree and you'll see a huge cube that was not there a couple of years ago. That will come in later.
Okay, we have.
Oh, you can draw on this? Okay.
What do you mean I can draw on this? This isn't Zoom. This is like a sane thing. You can like actually do stuff.
Well, use a nice color at least. Right. So redevelopment is rampant in this neighborhood. And the issue to a large extent is that these nice little homes that people would like to buy are so much more valuable if a property owner or developer believes that they can be upzoned and build something denser, that no one can afford to buy them as homes. And that's what happened next door to the other Johnson family house.
Let's walk through. Let's get us established. We have a map. We have an address. We have this idea, this understanding that there's a tree, there's a whole parcel, tree and house that's up for landmark designation. Let's get oriented. Okay, so this is a nice shot of the house.
Looking to the east.
Do this in February. there's slightly askew view just to give you some angle. The residence, 1905. The family arrived in Los Angeles in 1890, and the neighborhood was called Pico Heights back then. And
Sort of a failed subdivision. It took a little while to get up on its feet, but once it did, it had lots of charming little homes.
no rabbit holes. We could talk about Pico Heights and the Kavitz family for an hour. We're not.
Murder stories.
So what's this, Kim? That's an ugly box.
So that was the grandparents' house.
Right.
And then S.C. Johnson, the son, who was a master plasterer on the property that the family owned, built his own home for his wife and children. And this is where Cornelius Johnson grew up and played and practiced jumping and eventually became an Olympic hero, which is why we're talking about this really cool landmark designation.
And so we're interested in these boxes. We're interested in this box in the background, because what did the building of that building do to?
It seems to have caused some undermining of the root system. Nobody knows for sure because the people building this thing next door didn't care. But the tree, you can see it from video taken several years ago by the artist Christian Kosmas-Meyer, who's one of the landmark designators. And also just by doing Google Street View, you have the link in your handout. This tree is really suffering, and it's a combination of no one living in the house since the developer bought it, no one watering the tree, but also quite likely some root damage.
We'll get to all of that. Okay, so just quickly, still trying to just quickly walk around. This is looking to the east on 12th Street. And here we are.
And that's Richard. Look how little he is.
That's in February. This is the vista we're going to take for most future photos of the tree.
I think there might have been more. Like, this is July, end of July.
This is July.
Go back. I think there was more greenery in February.
Absolutely.
That really worries me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so there I am. And there's Don. Yay, yay team, yay team. All right, so
tree cops.
So there we are. We're looking at the tree. We'll get into a breakdown of what horse shape it's in.
Well, normally I just want to say, when we go out and do tree surveys with Don about historic trees in LA, it's always nice to be able to get physically close to a tree so you can look at the bark and dig around a little bit, so he can, not us, and dig around a little bit in the soil and see how moist it is. In this case, access is limited because it is private property and it has this tall fence, but we did the best we could, and you can actually tell quite a lot from the sidewalk.
Right, and look at that. So let's just finish up with the tree photos, and then we'll get to other problems. So close up. We're going to talk about what this type of growth at the trunk is. It's not good.
And also you'll see some mildew there on the leaves. We'll be talking about that.
Not good.
And here, it's a little hard to get that view, but I sort of held our camera in the side of the fencing. You can see how the tree looks today. This was a week ago.
Okay. So.
And the same.
We're gonna talk about the concrete.
Well, let's do it. Let's show our visit.
Well,
I think that's the most important thing to do, Richard.
This concrete has to come up. Well, we're gonna go by the slideshow, Kim.
Well, let's keep going.
Slideshow tells us what to talk about. Quercus robur. That is the Latin name. That is the proper botanical name for a European oak, and that's what this tree came to Los Angeles as a sapling, and that's what we're going to get into right now. Okay,
yes,
we're going to do the back story. Okay. Sorry, little. New York Times, May 2022. Tim Arango writes a great article in Los Angeles, a tree with stories to tell. I think it's linked in the handout.
It's linked, and Tim was able to connect with the Johnson family and see a bunch of artifacts from this Olympic championship and just learn more about the family's long history in Los Angeles and long connection with this corner. They actually owned the property until the 90s.
Yeah. Great article, really. Okay, so Cornelius Johnson.
Cornelius Cooper Johnson, no relation. Corny to his friends.
Okay.
Like Charles Bukowski, a Los Angeles high school grad.
Cornelius Johnson is one of 18 athletes to attend the 1936 games in Berlin.
For America.
Getting to that. Let's see what we got. Third rail, electric rail. Okay, let's just quickly try and talk about this. The 1936 Olympic Games
were a giant propaganda operation.
Lenny Riefenstahl was hired by Goebbels, the head of propaganda for the National Socialist Party, to film the Olympic Games, which Hitler wanted to take over when they dominated the world and just always have them in Berlin because because the heir to Charlemagne always hosts the Olympics. Anyway, so Triumph of the Will is a propaganda film she made right before the Olympics, and Olympia is the film she made at the 1936 Games at Berlin that we're going to watch some clips from in a minute. I cannot tell you how important these two feature-length Nazi propaganda films are to how we film the Olympics today, which the world watches, and how commercials are made. Riefenstahl is obviously a fascist. Here she is talking.
No, it's worse. She's an artist.
Fascist. Yeah. Here on the right, she's the one that invented like the Olympic torch. Like the
Can we talk about her jacket?
It's
really hot. Okay, you gotta just keep going.
I know. The third rail. Okay, so the last thing I will say is I understand that that Leni Riefenstahl and Goebbels had big fights because she wanted to film all the African American athletes, and they're like, no, you can't. We don't want to give them any screen time. That's not what happened. Okay, video. Okay, so
from Olympia, we have actual documentation of the incredible skill of Cornelius Johnson, and as you'll see, this son of Los Angeles and quite a young man.
Johnson, USA.
Okay, so this is.
Why don't we just take us off and let's watch this?
Auf 2,3 Meter liegt die Latte. Nur noch 4 Männer kämpfen den Sieg. Kokkas Finnland, der beste Springer Europas, beginnt. Scheidet aus. Färber, USA. Briten, USA. Johnson, USA.
There he is. There's Cornelius Johnson.
Look at those legs, those are grasp.
Olympischer Rekord. Erster Johnson, zweiter Briten, dritter Färber. Amerikas Springer auf den ersten 3 Plätzen.
Hold on. Okay.
We're back. How great is that? So that championship jump held as a world's record for 20 some years. And you really couldn't make the film Olympia without highlighting the extraordinary athletic prowess of Cornelius Johnson, as Leni Riefenstahl did. And that's why on August the 4th, the Cultural Heritage Commission is having their second hearing out of 2 to vote on moving along this process of declaring both the Oak and the Johnson family residence protected landmarks of the city of Los Angeles. And from the Cultural Heritage Commission, which is they were extremely positive in the first hearing, we expect them to advance it.
Well, the staff report
says
is
do it.
recommending they do it.
But and from there, it will go.
Well,
let me. Stop that. You done? Mm-hmm. Breathe. It'll go to the Planning and Land Use Management Committee hearing at some future date, but this is really a discretionary scheduling because the property owner doesn't care. He'd like to tear it down and develop. There's no one sitting in CD10, the council district, because Herb Watson has been removed by a judge because he was sitting in for someone held on racketeering charges, Mark Ridley Thomas. Big problems in the district. So it could just sit in limbo. And so that's why we're advocating today to ask the Cultural Heritage Commission, which is actually celebrating its 60th anniversary at Thursday's hearing. And when you tune in, and hopefully you'll tune in to make public comment, you're also going to get to see a little presentation about the history of this body. And this is a body that was founded.
Oh, right.
It's such an interesting timing.
Yeah.
It was founded as an advocacy arm of the city. And
Carl,
actually,
Carl Dentzel.
an amazing
Carl
person.
Dentzel.
They actually, the Cultural Heritage Commission predecessor agency helped to start Heritage Square, which is kind of that zoo of
They funded it.
yeah, that zoo of preserved Victorian and later buildings out by the 110 freeway. So in the old days, Cultural Heritage Commission would get up and say, we have to save this. What can we do? And these days we've come to hearings and it's really fallen on citizens who are landmarking things and calling in to say, we're here to like fight for buildings. And we'd like to see the Cultural Heritage Commission, in this case, really look at the evidence and say, you know, this oak merits becoming a landmark and this house merits becoming a landmark. The house is probably going to be okay. The oak is going to need a little bit of love
So let's
make it.
Let's just stop before we get too
I'm
far.
done.
Okay. I don't want you to be done. I just want you to stop for a
Done
second.
for now.
Okay. So we're 15 minutes into this webinar, and we can now put on the table explicitly the point of this webinar. So the point of this webinar is not to serve as a primer to people to understand the complete historic cultural monument application for the Cornelius Johnson residence.
It's
and
linked.
Olympic
You can
Oaks.
read it along with the Waha supplement, which includes even more information about the neighborhood.
It's not
and
what we're
family.
trying to do. We're trying to get everyone up to speed on the oak, on how the oak can be saved, which has absolutely nothing to do with the historic cultural monument process. And we are hoping that in the course of talking around this HCM application about the oak and how it can be saved, that we will inspire people to submit written or give oral public comment, live public comment at Thursday's hearing, which is at 10 a.m. And it's the first proper agenda item. I mean, all the other.
So 10:45, 11.
Yeah.
Stream it in the background.
So, okay. So
we always do.
That's what we're going to talk about. So if we miss anything when you're reading stuff later, don't say, oh, they missed that. It's like, no, because we don't have 3 hours. So let's barrel.
And by the way, dinner smells great.
It does.
And I hope your dinners smell great too.
The application is submitted by 2 individuals. Susan Anderson, she's the history curator at the California African American Museum.
Go, Susan.
Tristan Cosmos Mayer, he is in Vienna. There's his URL
Go,
too.
Krista.
He's been working on this a very long time. He partnered with the California African American Museum. Good idea.
And he was an artist in residence at the Mack Center in the neighborhood, pretty close. And thank you. And that is how he found out about the tree
right.
and documented it before the property flipped. And so he spent time in that backyard. And that's how we have this incredible drone footage, which is linked in your handout. And also, we just know the tree was okay until recently, and it can be again. But boy, it needs some love.
It needs and then not to forget, and again, this is my disclaimer 15 minutes into this. We're not here to talk about the complete HCM. West Adams Historical Association did a fantastic job producing a supplemental report on the residents and the family.
And it's great reading for anyone who hangs out in West Adams. You want to know these stories.
It's so fantastic. We've linked to it. I am hopeful that the commission will properly fold it in. But that's beyond my control.
Because the city council, which hasn't heard this yet, if it isn't folded in, all of this will be lost on them, and it's important.
So mention that too, if you give public comment, but that's about all we can do. Voice your support for the nomination.
They love it when the public calls in.
They do.
Although after about 3 hours of public comment, they get crabby and they want their lunch.
They don't. It's agenda item number 6. So,
which sounds later than it is, but they do some normal business at the beginning.
Okay. So to set up, now we have to take a couple of minutes and try and give some background as to why we're about to make the statement, why we've made the statement, and we will support it. The statement, landmarking the parcel will not save the tree. Okay. So the slide reads, preservation as public policy. City of Los Angeles. Kim, if there was ever a time you were just gonna start barreling ahead, let's start reading these points on
Okay.
this slide, and let's
So
just
the background image is the Peabody Weirden house, which we were able to get
Boyle Heights
in
first
Boyle
in
Heights,
Soto.
first in Soto. We were able to get ELAC, an affordable housing developer, to move it by just putting out a social media
across
meme.
the street.
They
Yeah.
moved it across the street rather than demolish it. We put out a meme that said, "Why is an affordable housing developer demolishing one of the oldest, most beautiful houses in Boyle Heights?" And so many people called them within like 12 hours that they said, "Oh, we were always planning on moving it." And it's been sitting rotting on a metro lot ever since. So on this screen,
Shrinking resources for oversight and enforcement.
oh,
So
gee, we can't take care of all the landmarks we already have, so let's just stop landmarking stuff.
no, bad.
No.
Historic preservation overlay zones, which are the emotional half acre of the West Adams Historical Association's neighborhoods.
So it's this incredibly powerful system by which an enlightened city government said,
Districts.
"Oh,
Defined
here's a whole
districts.
historic district," rather than everyone having to scramble to individually landmark all of their homes, which are all important and fit together as a network, sort of like a coral reef. Let's just recognize that this is a historic district, and then people who care about these homes can buy them and preserve them and maintain them. And if they want to individually landmark, they can. But Eric Garcetti hates HPOZs. You haven't been able to make one in years because they stand in the way of big property developers just coming in and knocking everything down.
So one big problem with the Office of Historic Resources, who even if they get this landmark through planning and land use and get it to full council and they vote yes, it will not save the tree. Last item on this card, Kim, is
God.
Mills Act in jeopardy.
So
And again,
City
we
Planning
look back
Department-
to Waha.
City Planning Department decided that they just wanted to rewrite the Mills Act, which is this really incredible law that actually
it's a state law.
It's a state law. There are other states have similar laws. The idea is, if you want to buy a historic property and you're not made of money, which most people who really love old houses aren't, you can get tax breaks by agreeing to be a really good steward and take care of it for future generations, and your property taxes will go down. And the amount that it takes away from property taxes citywide, countywide, it's trivial. But what it gives back in terms of maintaining these wonderful, green, beautiful buildings that we all can enjoy is uncountable. And because there's just not the resources to actually maintain the Mills Act, and because people in city planning think that it would be better to have more development and more housing, ignoring the fact that we have a lot of housing that's sitting vacant, being held vacant as money laundering vehicles or used as Airbnb or rented by the night for production companies, they want to get rid of the Mills Act. Everybody in the West Adams district, the vast majority of the Mills Act contracts are in West Adams. It's an annual contract. People are saying, we're going to have to leave our homes. We're not going to be able to afford to stay here and care for these properties. And the developers are salivating.
So let's go back to a nice shot from Hobart.
Oh, and actually, if you were a little bit farther back, you'd see the roses. I have some rose hips. I can't save the tree myself. I know, but I'm going to try to get some seeds out of the Johnson family roses and see if we can have them in our garden. Okay, so wish me luck.
We took about 5 minutes to talk about these 3 points about problems facing the Office of Historic Resources, which is within the Department of City Planning, which oversees landmarks in the city, which we're about to show can't save the tree. But if these 3 major challenges and failings of this department were corrected, if HPOZ governing boards were supported by the Office of Historic Resources, which requires support of the mayor, and actually keeping these governing bodies at full voting quorum so they can actually make decisions, if the Mills Act weren't being threatened to be pulled and people will not be encouraged to buy historic homes in historic preservation overlay zones, if there are more money and resources for oversight and enforcement by the Office of Historic Resources, which requires the direct support of the mayor, if all these things are happening, if all these things are happening, then there's a good chance this house would not be in the shape it's in, and an entity, an individual or a foundation would already own it and be fostering the tree, getting it back into shape, and making sure that this house is brought up spick and span to the HPOZ standards. So all those things, okay. All right. So let's Now let's just keep barreling along.
What's
So
the next
I
slide
think the
say?
next slide's gonna say it can't save the tree.
That's a good thing to say.
Yeah.
Oh, you already got to that one. We can get past that one. Wow, you got a lot of slides.
Not too many more. Okay,
Okay.
right. HCM status alone will not save the tree.
But
Okay,
without HCM status, this tree is not going to live. So let's not denigrate historic
We're
cultural
not.
monument status. It's important and it needs to get that yes vote on Thursday. So whatever else you may write to them or call them about, say, I support landmarking the Cornelius Johnson Oak and residence.
Okay, right. And so why we've made this statement, HCM status alone will let's dissect this statement. HCM status alone will not save the tree. Okay. So the historic cultural monument application is about halfway through the process. We're going to assume, because the staff report is positive, is supporting the nomination, that this will clear the Cultural Heritage Commission. The nomination, which is for the whole parcel, the house and the tree, will go to planning and land use management.
Maybe someone will buy the property while this is happening. It's happened before.
I don't know. Planning and everything is so entangled. There's some ordinance that Mayor Garcetti passed that basically
the tolling,
the
right? Indefinite delays on all of this, which can be good or can be bad.
So even if this gets through planning and land use management, and that's a whole nother webinar,
no, please don't make them.
I'm not.
No.
It's a whole nother webinar, how you tackle HCM applications that are not supported by the owner in PLUM. That's just like a whole nother nightmare. But let's assume it gets through PLUM, the tree's going to be dead by then. Okay, so let's start now.
Right, because everyone admits the house is important, but the tree is really important.
Well, the tree is in very bad shape. So if Dawn, I think you're still tuned in. So if you have anything to add, throw it in.
Well, we're gonna show our visit. Let's get to that.
I know. Okay,
I'm
so
excited.
How can we save the tree? All right. So just before we show the video with Dawn, how can we? Okay, what can save the tree?
A foundation purchasing the property and implementing Dawn's plan now.
Now
it doesn't have to be a foundation. Could be a private party, but the price that they put on this property is well beyond the means of most private parties, unless there's a giant Corny Johnson fan out there who desperately wants to get into tree care, and maybe there is.
Okay, let's just spend one more minute introducing our good friend Don Hodel. He is an environmental horticulturalist. We put a link to his CV. Just it's a write-up of what he's done for the last 40 years, and he's totally amazing.
We've learned so much hanging out with you, Don.
And see, we have just a little warm-up. Our other projects with Don.
But there's so many trees that need help, and
so many that we decided we were only going to talk about the bunya trees we're trying to save with Don. Okay, so we are working with Don. Excuse me.
Oh my goodness! God bless you.
Thank you.
You've hyphenated bunya.
Excuse me. Am I not supposed? Oh,
are you okay?
Yeah, I feel silly. I realize I'm not supposed to hyphenate bunya.
You just got excited.
Okay, so Rancho Los Amigos, Southern Campus Rancho Los Amigos in Downey.
The old county poor farm. This beautiful tree in the center of the quad started looking brown. We've been advocating for saving the whole central quad while they demolish this National Register district. Links in your handout. And
look at that. Look at that. Half the buildings are already demoed since I took that photo.
Okay, but it turns out this tree wasn't dying because someone wasn't watering it. This tree got struck by lightning.
Yes.
But at the moment, thanks to the advocacy of ourselves and Don, and Colleen Fliedner, the historian of Rancho Los Amigos, this tree is getting a second chance. It is now fenced off from people trampling around it. It is getting regular water, and it's just being watched and allowed to try to bounce back. It suffered a serious electrical injury, but it's still filled with birds, and it's still very beautiful. It's on the brown side.
The tree is
it's the central bunya. It has a little brother a little to the right there, which is actually doing really well.
Yeah. So that's it. All right, got to keep moving. El Pino is another bunya tree in unincorporated East Los Angeles, Folsom, and Indiana.
Much beloved, and as seen in the film Blood In, Blood Out. Property developer tied to Jose Huizar, the other council member popped on racketeering charges, has bought the parcel which was actually part of the garden of that beautiful prairie style, and actually sort of Viennese secession style
Yeah,
house,
it's
Kristen.
definitely
Really special house in East LA. Their garden parcel was separated off and bought by this developer, Art Gastelum, and he says he's put townhomes there, and that's not good for the tree.
Kim and Don and I, with many others, are trying to save this tree.
People come. So many people came to the tree when we visited. We had to go in the alley to shoot a video because it was just so popular.
All right, this is. We're not supposed to show this photo, but we are. It's top secret. This is not a bunya
I've
bunya
shown
tree.
that, just that one photo. Yeah.
Okay, this is a photo. Don's help. Boy, Don was when Don showed up to this one, he was like, "Oh my God, you guys are serious." So this is the 7-ton collapsed eagle tree as in the eagle tree that was used as a bearing marker for Spanish land grant maps. Yeah, it's being moved to a safe spot next door by Chevron Oil.
It's been struck by lightning too, but that's not why it fell over. It just was.
We have a meeting with Chevron. Don, are you ready for your meeting with Chevron tomorrow?
The most important thing you need to know, you see that green growth behind the dead eagle tree? That's either an identical clone or a very close relation of the ancient eagle tree.
That's
and we are advocating to save that.
Okay, then we have a big meeting. Boy, Don, you ready to go up against Chevron Oil? I am. Okay. All right, so that's just a little glimpse of the work we do with Don around Los Angeles County.
And here's a little hint of what you're going to hear about, what needs to be done. But let's let Don tell us for himself, because I think the visit is really powerful.
All right. Remove all concrete, drip irrigation, soil analysis, irrigate 12 inches deep, and treat fungus.
Which is good for all of us. Treat fungus. Sorry.
Okay.
Don says he's ready for the meeting with Chevron. Good.
Good. All right. So we're going to turn.
I'm going to remind everyone before you go, our first big preservation campaign, we took on ConocoPhillips, which had bought Union 76 and was tearing down all of the 76 ball signs in 2008?
2006?
And we
2005.
It was a while ago. But we just created this really playful pro-California, pro-advertising history campaign that the 76 ball was cool. And after a year, ConocoPhillips said, we've made a terrible mistake. We're bringing them back. So, Esotouric won.
This is a video. It's about 9 minutes long. I'm going to turn our mic and camera off, so we're just going to watch it. We made this with Don
a week ago
today. All right, so we're going to turn everything off.
Let's go to Pico Heights.
Don, we're here. We're in 12th and Hobart. We are at the Cornelius Johnson Oak, which is the site of the proposed landmark Cornelius Johnson residence. And do you want to tell us? Well, I guess the first interesting point is, in spite of it being this tree being part of a landmark process, do we know the genus and the species of this tree?
Well, hi, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here at the Cornelius Johnson Oak. It's my first time here. And I only learned about this oak within the last year, really. And because it's an oak, we know it's in the genus Quercus. But I have been unable to find any reports in the literature of what species it is. So it must be a European oak because of its history. It came from Germany. The actual plant came from Germany. And so I'll have to do some research and see if I can figure out what species it is. I haven't seen it written anywhere what it is.
Perfect. All right. Okay. So we're going to do a bit of a weather report. So let's get a weather report, Don, and just sort of to give people a sense. Are you happy or sad to see this tree right now?
Okay. So when I first saw this tree a little while ago, within the last half hour,
right.
It was kind of shocking, actually, because I at first I didn't see any green growth on it. It looked like it was a deciduous tree in the middle of winter. Right. And here we are in the end of July. So an oak should have leaves right now in Los Angeles. So on closer inspection, although I can't get up to the trunk, I'm standing maybe 10, 15 feet away from it, I see that the entire area where its root zone would have been is covered with concrete.
Yeah.
And there's simply a small cutout that maybe is 2 to 3 feet away from the trunk for this tree to grow. So that concrete is the problem.
Yeah.
The other problem is, I understand the house has been vacant for a while, and the tree has probably not received much care in many, many years. And so we have a lot of dieback in the canopy. There is some green growth on it.
And what type of growth do you call that?
Yeah, I'll explain that. It's called epicarmic growth, and typically it comes out of the trunk or main branches. And it's an indicator that the tree is severely stressed. And so the concrete all around it, the lack of care, the lack of water over the years has really stressed this tree, and it's died back mainly just to the trunk and maybe a little bit of the main branches. And then those are trying to grow by putting out what's called this epicarmic growth. And unfortunately, the epicarmic growth has a fungal disease on it called powdery mildew too. So this tree has got a lot going against it. It's teetering on the edge. I think it can be saved.
Okay.
But it's going to require immediate action in the next 4 to 8 weeks.
All right. Okay, so we talked about this. What are your asks to save this tree? Give us a list.
To save this tree,
yeah.
This is what has to be done.
Okay.
All the concrete has to be removed.
Okay. Everything.
All the concrete has to be removed. And this is concrete that looks like it's about 50 feet by 75 feet. It's a huge hardscape of concrete around the tree. Okay. It's inhibiting the movement of water into the root zone. It's inhibiting the movement of oxygen into the root zone. So it's unhealthy for the tree to have that impervious concrete cover over the root zone. So that needs to be removed. The tree, a drip irrigation system needs to be installed that can slowly water the roots, maybe once a month.
Let me interrupt you. So you don't just mean like turn a hose on once a week.
No. That won't work.
Okay.
We want a drip irrigation system
evenly distributed
all the way out for at least 40 feet from the trunk, and it should be run once a month, long enough. It'll be several hours to be able to push moisture at least 12 to 18 inches below the soil surface. I think a certified arborist should be hired, one who specializes in restoration of stressed and dying trees like this one is. That's kind of a specialty, but we can find someone who can do that, and he can give an evaluation or she can give an evaluation and assessment of this tree.
Soil report?
And it would be good to have a full soil report done by a lab. Yes.
All right, so what you're saying is if all of this can be implemented, you can get an arborist out here, you can get a soil report, you can then, in, say, 3 months, the powers that be that are advocating to save this tree and engaged in saving it, your licensed and long-term professionals, can make some decisions. Once we get a soil report,
yes,
an arborist visit, and we get some irrigation. All right, yes. So we're looking at... By Halloween, ideally, we can come back and
it's unfortunate that it would take that long because getting the reports won't take that long. It'll be maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and then we need to have action right away. We can't wait while people hem and haw about what to do.
Okay, I think that's it. This tree needs to be saved, and our ask is to implement this care plan. Okay,
it's teetering on the edge right now. It needs immediate therapeutic action.
Great. Let's do this. We're going to do this backwards. We usually do it. Your credentials. Let's start with your book. So you have been doing this for decades. So tell us about your book.
So I'm recently retired from the University of California Cooperative Extension. where I was a landscape horticulture advisor for 36 years, based in Los Angeles, doing applied research and educational programs on tree care and landscape management for the tree care industries and for the general public service. In 1988, I wrote a book called Exceptional Trees of Los Angeles.
Great book.
Which identified, documented, and told the story of the largest, oldest, historic or historic trees of their kind in Los Angeles County. Unfortunately, I didn't know about the Cornelius Johnson oak when I wrote the book. For if I had, I would have definitely included this tree in the book. It's definitely worthy of it.
We're going to help you build a website, and we'll add to it. So let me just, and I know we need to wrap this up, but let's just look ahead. So let's just think positive, project positive thoughts. In 4 to 6 weeks, concrete will be gone, irrigation will be set up. We'll have an arborist's report. We'll have a soil report. This site is stabilized. In terms of this tree, this site, as an educational center, as a point of outreach to the community, you in addition to working with trees, you design curriculum. So, what just sort of as a last thought, how do you see this site as an interface to help instruct the community and children?
This site could be multifaceted. First, you have the tree itself,
right,
and then you have the history behind that tree. How Cornelius Johnson was in the 1936, I think it was 36 Olympics. 36 Olympics in Berlin, an African-American man, and he won, I think, the first gold medal for the United States in those games. And then he was dissed by Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler dissed him.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. and what they gave to all the people, I think, that competed or that won, I'm not sure.
They got the gold medals.
They got the gold medals, and they got an oak seedling. And Cornelius carried it back to Los Angeles, all the way from Germany, and planted it in the backyard of his house. And so here it is. So this is not only a story about the biology of this tree and how it suffered over the years from neglect, but it's also a cultural and historic story about a very important yet sad time in our history. And for those reasons, this tree needs to live.
I love it. I love it. All right, so we've got a landmark hearing coming up August 4 for the whole parcel, the Cornelius Johnson compound. And the city, we're going to be advocating with the city to figure out how to help implement this plan of action. And Don, I want to thank you for your time and attention as always. We've got, just to look ahead, we've got meetings with Chevron next week too. So Thursday is going to be a busy day for us. We not only Cultural Heritage Commission and going to the mat with Chevron to save other trees. So thank you for your time and attention.
If we want to save ourselves, we have to save the trees.
Well, I think that Don really said what we need to say, which is there's a plan, and Halloween is probably too late. If someone out there is buying this parcel, and it sounded from Tim Morongo's interview on KCRW on Press Play, which is also linked in your handout, like there is some interest from foundations, including maybe the LA 84 Foundation, and the house seems to be an escrow. An offer's been accepted, but it hasn't been sold. If someone is seriously trying to buy the house, save the tree, make it an interpretive center, it isn't the kind of thing that can just wait until everyone figures out exactly what they want to do. If there's someone who's ready to be the new caretaker, they need to start to take care. And if the Cultural Heritage Commission is serious about declaring this a protected cultural and historic landmark of the city of Los Angeles, they need to encourage this too. Because a tree is not going to wait forever for people to get their acts together. You can only neglect it for so long. And we're here to say This is a really interesting problem. Every
Yeah.
preservation problem is new and different and interesting, and this may be one of the most complicated ones we've ever run into.
It is. And one last thing as we just get ready to just go into wrap up. So it's on private property. So the city, there's no precedent. It's just so complicated. And it's so important that it get landmarked. But that's like, well,
It's just a matter of getting someone to do the right thing. Now, the property owner will probably call in again Thursday.
right.
They weren't too happy last time, but they weren't completely hostile. They actually sounded a little hapless more than anything. Like they had bitten off more than they could chew. They didn't really know how to make this development happen themselves. Nobody was living in the parcel. Somebody had been in the house before. And they just wanted this problem to go away and to get their money back and maybe make a little profit. So they've had a chance to think about this. I hope that they've been approached by people who want to buy the house and take care of it. And I hope that and on the positive side, they allowed the Cultural Heritage Commission to tour the house. When
Yep.
you look at the landmark document, which is linked in your handout, you'll see pictures of the inside, including a wonderful curved wall that was definitely made by Corny's dad, SC, who was a master
Yeah.
plasterer who
Yeah.
worked on Paul R. Williams homes, who worked on the May Company, on the Miracle Mile, and made a beautiful little coved ceiling for his family home. It's a lovely house with built-ins, and it's going to be a great interpretive center, hopefully with this fantastic tree.
Okay. So
Let's go.
let's go. So tune in, public comment, call in, written comment.
If you're sending written comment, do it first thing tomorrow. It doesn't have to be long, but you want to make sure it
Yep.
gets to the Cultural Heritage Commissioners at the meeting on Thursday.
All right. So we're going to just Okay. So just shamelessly.
We're giving tours again, walking
Yep.
tours. They're fun.
We're all wearing masks. See that? Because when we're all standing really close, even though we're outside, we're wearing masks. But when we're walking in between locations,
Take it off.
take your mask. Okay.
Let your
just-
freak flag fly.
Okay. All right. So this Saturday, Raymond Chandler Walk.
Downtown Los Angeles, noir is everywhere. We're starting at Grand Central Market, so like
All our downtown tours start at Grand Central Market.
Right.
We love Grand Central.
so you're
Market.
going to go to the Donut Man. You're going to get a tiger tail or one of those big strawberry babies. You're going to chow down on that, walk with us in the cool part of the morning into the lunch hour, and then you'll end up back at Grand Central Market, and pupusas are fantastic.
The following Saturday, we're calling this the magic of this.
It's
This
like
is a
Broadway, downtown Los Angeles' magical, beautiful mess.
We're
or something like that.
we're gonna walk up and down Broadway between 3rd and 9th and just talk about really great stuff. Okay, just great stuff.
Adaptive reuse,
We're
redevelopment.
not going into the Apple Store, which is the old Tower Theater, because it's a debacle. We're not going into the Apple Store.
I do have to say one thing though. The Apple Store succeeded where no one else had. That building, that Tower Theater was so mildewy. It was so stinky. Like every time I went in there, I said, we're going to come away with asthma for life. And it smells good now. Yay, Apple.
Can't believe you said that.
It's
We
true,
have
though.
we have a newsletter.
We do. There are 2 editions, free and paid subscriber edition. If you subscribe as a paid subscriber, I've subscribed many times, it supports our preservation work, and every once in a while you'll get a special deluxo edition. And you can also read the archives of things that aren't otherwise on the internet from our adventures.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
look forward to hearing you call in on Thursday. And if you're not already hip to watching the Cultural Heritage Commission hearings, you can subscribe to them and get the agendas every couple of weeks. Actually, there's a lot of drama. It can be really fun. Like the battle over the landmarking of the Kurt Cobain house up in the hills was really something to see. And just wait until the Hotel Cecil starts to show up on that agenda again. You know, they painted over the protected wall sign.
Okay, we did it. We did it at 49 minutes. Okay, we did it. Yay, team.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. You're going to get an email that will tell you when this recording's available. You can watch it again. You can share the link with friends. We want people to see this. I think this is going to be sort of an evergreen webinar, but hopefully in the years to come, let's look into the future, when this tree is saved, when the house is landmarked, we'll look back on what a great challenge it was. But in the meantime, it has a couple more hearings. We're very confident that the Cultural Heritage Commission is going to say yes, and hopefully they'll put out a hand to help the tree. But then it heads on to planning and land use management, and that is not going to be quickly scheduled unless somebody takes action, and then to full city council. And from there, HCM, it'll get a number, it'll get a sign. maybe even a Mills Act contract.
Okay, and just quickly as we leave, Rena,
Hi, Rena.
it was all I could do not to show the photo of Rena's sister's birthday party at Clifton's cafeteria.
Rena, contributor to that wonderful West Adams Heritage Association supplemental document, which tells the history of the neighborhood and the Johnson family.
Rena has some good news. She said aerial photos of the house show that the concrete's been there since at least 1960. So that's good. That means it'll be even harder to break up.
So that means that the Johnson family put it there, and my
Still has to
assumption.
come up.
I noticed that it was beautifully poured, and I thought that maybe the Johnsons had
plaster,
something to do
yeah.
with it. My assumption is that they had dogs, because when you have dogs, you want to have a hardscape. It's much easier to clean.
Okay. It still has to come up. All right, so we did it. Tune in. Put in your comment. Rena, we miss you.
Oh, and then the other thing, I almost forgot. When you call in, tell the Cultural Heritage Commissioners, yes, support the landmarking. Please do something to ensure the tree is healthy because it needs some care right now, especially while the property is sort of lying fallow. And please include WAHA's supplemental document in the landmarking designation that is sent on to full city council, because it helps to inform this designation. And together with the original nomination and the supplement, you have a great, bulletproof, and powerful landmarking document.
I love it. All right, here's the tree, and we're gonna sign off. So I want to thank everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. It's great to see you. We're gonna go have some dinner. Think good thoughts for the tree. And Christian, when you log in tomorrow in European time, hello. Thank you for all of your landmarking work. Thanks for caring about Los Angeles.
So let's just bring this on home. We got to support Susan and Christian. We got to get this in heart. We got to do a lot. There's a lot to do. So let's get to it, and thanks.
Bye. See you next time.